Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the Economic Times Digital Roundtable themed around active intelligence, accelerating informed decision, powered by Click. Mark Zuckerberg once said, the biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that's changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. Companies looking to breach the veil of uncertainty and weaving resilience into their DNA for future shocks are focusing on gathering more data to unlock new revenue options. This data has enormous potential for helping a firm thrive and for assisting executives in making real-time decisions. However, this can only happen if this data is used to its full potential in order to generate useful insights. And business intelligence can prove to be more useful in these tumultuous times if it is relayed in a real-time manner. Active intelligence seems to be the answer. It provides analytics-ready data along with the most updated information in real time, with an amalgamation of the data at rest, and data in motion. It represents the pulse of the data, providing business insights and creating an intelligent data to analytics pipeline. Active intelligence has raised the bar of technology, giving traditional methods a run for their money. With real-time and analytics-ready data, it has sped up business processes and is assisting them in making rapid and informed decisions. In this session, our domain experts will discuss how this technology is rapidly evolving, and will touch upon the following key subjects like the status of adoption of active intelligence, how to tackle business problems using active intelligence, how data pipeline enables quick decisions, business outcomes that active intelligence may help you accomplish, and help in prompting immediate actions. For the Economic Times Digital Roundtable Active Intelligence, Accelerating Informed Decisions powered by Click, I am delighted to welcome our extensive range of speakers for the session. Mr. Abhijit Shah, CTO Nippon India, Mr. Rajiv Garg, Global Head IT Global Hub, Siemens AG, Mr. Sameep Mutta, Vice President and Group Head Digital and Innovation, RPG Group, Mr. Narayanan Doraiswamy, Senior Vice President, IT and Operations, Zorient, Mr. Himanshu Gupta, Territory Sales Director, West from Click, and our moderator for the session will be Mr. Ankush Gadi, Director, Data Management and Analytics, CRISIL. I hand over to you, Ankush. Let's hear it and learn from you for the session.
Thank you, Rejuta, for this. Good evening, everyone. I hope you and your family members are safe and in good health. And thank you for inviting me here and helping me moderate this session. I think this is a very, very apt topic today on active intelligence, accelerating informed decisions. And I'm very, very privileged to be part of such a panel. For us, 2020 was a very unprecedented year. And what it actually did was to accelerate the entire technology and digital agenda in a big way. And I'm sure each one of you will agree with me on this. While the business landscape has been evolving, and more so with the clients being the center of all this, now the real-time data analytics are getting more and more important. And this is also driving us help build the right data strategy and the analytics strategy in our organizations. And I'm sure each one of you in your respective roles have to make very hard choices and difficult choices in terms of which platforms, technology, as well as systems, doing the right cost benefit analysis in terms of what to adopt and why to adopt. And we'll get into more of this as we progress. But before we get into our discussion, I'd like to hear from you some opening remarks in terms of how technology has led to real-time data and analytics are getting more and more helpful to get breakthrough results in your organization. And with this, I just first invite Himanshu to set the opening comments and share his thoughts on this. Himanshu, your comments, please.
Thanks, Ankush. And I'm very happy to be a part of this discussion around maximizing the full potential of data and analytics. And looking forward to learn from each one of you. So as you rightly said, I think we can all agree, it has been a very disruptive 18 months, with the pandemic. For me personally, it's been the most extended period of working from home and an unprecedented usage of digital platforms. So, and what I've witnessed is, for almost every organization, the digital journey has been on steroids. We have achieved more in the last couple of months, than we had planned for, in maybe a few years. And it also means that, previously, if we were seeing the explosion of data, now it's almost a supernova. And in Click also, we have experienced a tremendous uptake in the, a use of Click Analytics platform across the corporations globally, from retail to manufacturing, from banking to insurance, from government to healthcare. Everybody has accepted the importance of data and analytics platform for resilience and rebound. The need to close the gap between data and outcomes has never been so critical. And with more and more clients across the world adopting active intelligence, which is actually an approach based on continuous intelligence from real-time, up-to-date information. To just give you an idea of what I mean by active intelligence, just consider this, right? So we had these traditional BI systems, which used configured, curated sets of data while lacking a governed end-to-end data pipeline, and were more designed to give you a sort of post facto, a day-old view of your business, more designed to inform and not to take action. While active intelligence, on the other hand, is a state of continuous intelligence, where technology and processes amalgamate together to support the triggering of immediate actions based on real-time, up-to-date information. Now, today's world is made up of so many different business moments. Just think, you are all working in organizations, working in, highly competitive industry. And imagine, we fail to notice some product dissatisfaction signals, coming from social media in time, or, some unprecedented customer churn, which only gets noticed, after 1 or 2 days, or something as benign as, say, some change in ordering trends from key goods supplier. I mean, this has been the year, we have seen the, impact of stonks and dodge to the moon, right? This is where active intelligence steps in by creating the in-moment awareness of the business through up-to-date real-time information. Now, this information can be sourced from those extensive array of, digital touch points, which we all have been working on in our organizations through this journey. And with that, active intelligence can trigger immediate actions and help the organizations maximize the efficiency of processes. Let me, just explain with a few examples how some of our clients are using, active intelligence. So one of our large clients in a financial services, they are using active intelligence for monitoring and analyzing all the stocks and trading related data. So basically, they are tracking each and every stock transaction using active intelligence, trying to find out anomalies in those transactions, seeing, everything is in action, there's something wrong. And if they find some, discrepancy in the pattern, take immediate action to stop it. Another large national insurance is doing something similar by using active intelligence to weed out insurance fraud. It uses this framework to create a 360-degree view of its customers, queries, and policies that allow it to identify suspicious behavior, such as, let's say, frequent changes in nominees or a sudden spike in a certain kind of, insurance policy coming from certain specific geography. In such a scenario, branch managers can be immediately alerted to intervene and, help stop this or stem this fraud in time, right? Similarly, another large financial company using active intelligence to monitor their loan applications, a real-time monitoring of the end-to-end process of a loan application from login to loan sanction, monitoring the progress at every step and expediting this whole conversion process, right? So, in this insight to action process, the demand to make human intervention lower is all the more important. We hear a lot about embedded analytics. Our clients are saying that they want to embed analytics within their systems of, transactions, within the systems where they are doing, all their processes, rather than going to a separate analytical system and then come back with that intelligence. So people are embedding analytics right within the point of action, within their ERPs, within their CRMs. So these critical workflows, which are enabled by active intelligence, we believe they are a very critical tool in the hands of business decision makers to make timely, informed, data-driven decisions And this has the potential to be that differentiating edge for organizations in this hyper-competitive, disrupted world.
Thank you, Imanshu. I think some very, very relevant use cases you called out. I'm sure. I think we'll dwell in some of them as we progress in the session. Can I please invite Rajiv to share his opening comments on this topic?
Thanks, Ankush. Imanshu, you really brought a very valid point that over the last 15 to 18 months, since we are sitting at home, the world has completely transformed. And whereas the digitalization has become a key topic for every board meeting, what we have, our boardroom discussions. With that, what we used to have a business intelligence, either through Click or through Dynasty or various other products, was having a static data. But now we want informed decision makings. So the active intelligence or content intelligence, what do you want to call it out, is a design pattern. What we are seeing in the real-time analytics are integrated into the business operation. The way you talk about the loan application or your financial company, where they actually process on the current based on the historical data and prescribe in actions what they can take it out. So we're actually seeing that in a very effective way. No matter it is a real-time analytics, coming from a manufacturing background, could be IoT, connected devices. That how do I really have my people when they come back to home? Like the way we have done in our organization is we have got sensors on the seats now. So in case you are having a close interaction within the limits of the guidelines of a COVID, you get alarms. Third, what we can look at is event stream processing. Now you can't have a complete surveillance in a factory, especially in these times when you have a limited staff. How can that be more effective and raise alarms, which are both triggered and build intelligence on to take an action, take informed action items? So what we are really seeing that with active intelligence, we're becoming more smarter, we're getting more outcome focused. We are embedding into the business operation to take actions accordingly. And it's a real time, 24/7. What you've been thinking about it, it's real time and very fast insights. And that's what we are looking at it. And we are seeing that the outcomes, what we used to leverage before pandemic, could have been the range of 45 to 50%, not going up to 96 to 98%. That's the kind of outcome success we're seeing that out. How do we drive the end user adoption of the optimal use of the data based on the historical data and the unstructured data? Third, what we are seeing, especially in the manufacturing setup, the adoption of vector intelligence is picking up at a very fast pace. Every boardrooms is discussing that we need to invest in data lakes so that we can have an informed decision making. So, Imanshu, what you shared, Ankush, what you shared, Ankush, what you shared, is something what we are actually seeing real time in the manufacturing sector.
Thank you so much. I think the improvement in percentage itself is like a scary number to see what you mentioned about from 45 to 1996, and the use of data, both structured and unstructured, I think is getting prominence. I think thanks for sharing that, Rajiv. I'll move to Abhijit. I think you part of the asset management, and I'm sure there is a lot of data that you deal with. It could transaction data, customer data, online data, offline data, the SIP's data, and I'm sure the business looks up to you for a lot more involvement in terms of how to make this more actionable, more real time, and I'm sure you're involved in a lot of those discussions. It's good to hear from you your comments on how this is impacting your day-to-day job. Abhijit, you're on mute. Sorry. Yeah.
I hope I am audible. So thanks for that.
Yes.
In fact, first of all, let me kind of just give a feel of what kind of data explosion that we are looking at. I was looking at some reports from Statista, and surprisingly, at around 2021, we are the worldwide consumption of data is around 79 or 75 zettabytes. And by 2025, it's predicting it is going to be around 181 zettabytes. Look at the kind of exponential growth of the data consumption worldwide. I mean, this is the kind of, and we are still expecting that the current data that we have in our organization is not enough, and we still want to have more data to make more sense out of the customer. I mean, the kind of use cases that we are getting into. I mean, if I want to just touch upon a use case of customer 360-degree view, you're trying to understand or trying to define the segment of one, and you're trying to understand the customer more better, uh, understanding the context of the customer. And it's not about, in our sense, it's not about doing more business with the customer, but it's also to do the right thing at that right point in time, in the right place. We want to do the most relevant thing for our customer based on his current context. So it may be the latest transaction he has done with us, it may be the last call he has done to our customer care, it may be the current geography he is in, the current post that he has done, the likes on the social media. So the data in traditional nouns which was available to me about the customer, my only interactions with him was about the transactions he used to do with me. But now, if I look at it, it does not restrict to what he's doing with me, but I'm also interested to know what he's doing outside, what he's doing beyond my organization, what is his social footprint. And, and surprisingly, there are so many data providers who have come in to kind of sell alternate data. And of course, all of these alternate data providers are official in sense, and they take consent from their customers to kind of sell this data to the required parties. So, whatever data you have, it's not enough. It's still more data. And we want to create the real-time customer profile, which many of the organizations, they are kind of being very aggressive to kind of pursue that opportunity. But and not everyone has been successful in doing that. I mean, all the large financial organizations, they want to know the real-time context of the customer. How can I do a fully targeted interaction with the customer, which is to the point, to which context, and not I'm making 10 of offers to him at a given point in time. I don't want to make 10 offers to him at any given point. I just want to make one offer, he is going to buy. So that's what we are intending to do. Apart from that, there are multiple other use cases that I foresee from financial industry perspective. I think AI-based stock predictions. I mean, this is something which many of the large wealth management houses have been doing, and construction of an optimized portfolio and portfolio rebalancer based on the intelligence that we gather from the market on real-time basis to kind of provide a sustainable returns and manage the risk related to that portfolio in real time. So it's about taking the customer in confidence and kind of holding his hand and driving him towards the goal that he has set for himself with regards to his investments, with regards to the returns that he has done. And over the period of this, when there is a real-time alert that comes from the industry, and if there is a stick to his portfolio, there are systems which will alert the customer that okay, your portfolio is not going to earn what you have predicted, what was predicted to earn. So you need to make some changes to the portfolio mix that you have, and based on those changes, you will be able to achieve the goals that you have defined for yourself. And so many things. So I think those are the models we have using the active data that is being available in markets now. And more importantly, I think the use of this data for threat management, threat monitoring is really becoming crucial. I mean, while there are multiple technologies emerging, there are multiple platforms emerging who are kind of getting into this, but identifying the data traffic patterns, identifying the way the data is kind of communicating between the two nodes, or rather multiple nodes in the organization and beyond the organization, and then trying to in a set pattern, deleting the alerts, and then taking the right decisions. And it is also kind of boiling down to self-healing systems. How you are able to kind of devise some self-healing systems which will be able to kind of predict that my system might go down, and before it goes down, I have to take many actions to make it to bring it back. So I think these are some of the things we can look at from our organization standpoint.
Sure. I think thanks for that, Abhijit. I completely resonate in what you're saying. I think the era of customization using data is now moved to hyper customization and targeted. And what you said about that one thing that is going to buy something that you need to find out from data and target that. I think very relevant points. Thanks for that. Samir, I'll turn it over to you quickly to
Sure.
share your opening comment.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ankush. Thanks, PT, for inviting. You guys can hear me? Okay. Ankush, I think I'll go back. I'll talk about, I think, what we are doing and how it's impacting. But if I go back when I started my career, my first exposure to analytics, there's a book written by Tom Davenport back maybe 2003-4 when I read it for the first time called Differentiating by Analytics. If you read that book also talks about how large enterprises have won the market just by differentiating based on analytics. Now, what had changed in 17 years? You're still saying that possibly that line still holds as much true as it was in 2003 when I read the book, right? Now, what changed in that in my mind is the access to information that you had then was something which has become much more democratic. And what I mean, I'll give you an example. Let's say that when I started my career in a consulting, I remember in some of the manufacturing plant where I worked on, whether ITC, TAFE, or any number of them, you would actually do this manufacturing analytics where a person would be given a chart saying that you note reading here, right? He will write down, look at the temperature every day, every shift, every whatever frequency is required. And he's going to do that analysis actually in a way on the fly, but it is his own understanding, assessment, and he'll be trained on certain pattern. Okay, it goes 3 reading continuously down, you call somebody. Now, if you look at, but he might not or she might not have an access to some data, which is integral part of the machine. Let's say temperature of a motor, a noise, or a vibration. So if you look at what is possible, which was not traditionally possible, has become possible. And it has given you a certain access to a data, which is causing and becoming a major part of how the particular asset is behaving. So that's one. Second is all this digital that we've been talking about. We started our journey in RPG almost 6-7 years back. Okay. Every digital tool, technology that you, in my mind, it is nothing but an additional source of data. Today, we're doing a lot of work in drones. What is it? It just brings tons of data. It will bring the data from satellite or a drones or a LiDAR. End of the day, it's just another source of data. If you just remove the jargon part of a technology, it is just going to give an additional data. Okay. So I think this digital thing has just become an additional big source of data. And that puts another positive pressure in the system because you need to go through it and make sense out of it. So I think that second aspect by analytics has become an important. I think about pandemic, I'll just say that I think from analytics point of view, at least in RPG, we've been always very focused on digital because we started journey 6-7 years back. But what gave a little pace on analytics is 2 requirements. One is in the pandemic business or post-pandemic businesses wanted to be on top of few things, which is basically a visibility. I want as much visibility I can. And it came because of the sheer requirement in the business that can I predict this kind of risk in the future or any other risk. This risk was so big, it just gave a sudden shift from the business saying that I want to be on top of the risk assessment. The risk could be on my coming in from an incoming material and hence vendors and hence which geography they are from and hence which profile they are from. Am I just exposed to one particular pattern and something goes wrong in one geography, one pattern, I am exposed. So this risk appetite or risk visibility became really important. And the second is this prediction, because everybody in the last 18 months and even now as we speak, wanting to do more with less. So it means that everybody said, look, we lost 2 quarters, we lost 3 quarters. How can we catch up? And that's where this need of lead time reduction or in a way doing more with the less started. And that is only possible when you are very closer to what is happening in real time. So you make changes with your process, with your whatever tools, technology, portal that you have, so that you get closer to achieving more with the less. So these are the few part pattern. Now, I'll just to bring it to life, I'll give 2-3 examples before I hand it over to you. The spectrum of data, one is that this the BI-centric data to the right-hand side of an analytics, but the other way to look at it from a business, which I always find more interesting, is one is a data which will make you relevant in the business. And one is a data or analytics, which will give you a different revenue stream, or it will create a new business for you. So on the right extreme, for example, in RPG, we talk about with the first tire company, which is actually launched our smart tire, and it is already on the road for commercial fleet. Now we're saying that the project itself is called as cost per kilometer, CPKM. Now it is impossible for you to arrive at a cost per kilometer, which is so real time and dynamic, because who's driving the vehicle, what is the terrain, what is the weather, what is the road condition, n number of parameters which we understand, which we do not understand, right? And my ability to predict that CPKM is going to make me and my client money. So it is extreme. So now that would become almost like a central part of how the tire industry would run in the future. So that's one end of it. While on the left hand side, it's more like, okay, I have been doing this Six Sigma, and the manufacturing is one industry which has been a victim of every possible management framework, right? From ISO to Six Sigma, you name it in that industry have gone through it. You go to the floor and you say that I've got a tool to improve, they'll laugh at it. Because I mean, what more can you squeeze out of those guys, right? I mean, they'll say, boss, we are a Deming, we are a TPM, we are Six Sigma, there's nothing left, right? But when you bring in analytics and make them understand that this will take into data or a consideration which was never done before. So I think it will take that predictivity and aid to a different extent itself. Okay. So I think that's one is a prediction, which is around the operations, asset, maintenance, bringing in the efficiency side. But the far extreme, which is more exciting, which is using drones in agri, for example. In our HML, we're actually using drones, and we're saying that will become an agri-tech company. Not we. I'm sure the entire India look at the precision farming. After the 3 weeks back, this entire liberalization of the policy in drones has happened. Look, just watch out in next 1 year and 2 years, how many unicorns will come just out of that field, right? And the investment that will start flowing. There's a huge activity happening there. So I think these two extreme that you see, the question to ask in the business is that, what is it that you want? And I think somebody mentioned one point around saying, Rajiv, I guess, said that it's informed decision making. In fact, in our analytics project, my first learning is, I said, I will not call it as an analytics. I'll call it as an informed decision making. It's not a pun, okay? You still need to intervene. It's going to give you some insight for you to take better decision. Don't expect the machine, like we are investing in a commodity analytics, and we said, boss, it's commodity analytics. It's not going to take decision by itself. If it has to do that, it would go and sit in commodity exchange, not with us, right? That tool. They would find more value of it. So I think that informed decision making that Rajiv used, one word that we swear by internally, saying that the power is given to you, the decision is going to come from you in the end of the day. You will become more intelligent in how you take the decision. So that's few things I wanted to share, but yeah, over to you for anything.
Thanks, Amit. I think very, very relevant points and insightful. I think the power of the entire data that you alluded, I think it's very, very strong. So quickly, I'll move to Mr. Narayanan. I think you have a very large role, I understand, in your organization. Can you please share your perspective on more active intelligence or real-time data?
Sure. Thank you, Ankush, and hi, everyone. So I think all the speakers before me touched on very interesting topics of what's happening today with analytics and BI and stuff. I want to start with what Himanshu mentioned when he started, right? In the past, we started doing analytics of post-facto data, which means you took data after an event happened and then you did analytics. Right? And typically, maybe several years ago, we started primarily with revenue data, and then we also started looking at revenue, what happened, and then you started looking at forecasting or predicting revenue. Right? And that's one of the original ones. Then you went down and drilled it down by client and location, business unit, all that stuff. Then we started drilling down, and then I think the next thing that came out, at least in our IT solutions and services industry, was manpower. Right? We said, okay, what is the salary range of people? What is the margins of profitability of different projects based on the number of people that we engage? So all these were the next stage. What's happened in the last year and a half? Right? Two significant things. One is, everybody practically started working from home. So we had 6 offices in India, and we knew who was where. Now you don't know who's where unless you start tracking their geographical location first. Right? The second is they were used to desktops, and then now everybody has laptops, and we ship them, and then all the digital, everything from digital onboarding, induction, everything is now digital. So a lot of data that gets captured. What's continued to happen now in the last 6 to 9 months, right? The entire IT industry has seen some unprecedented changes. All the companies in general that did not hire, grow last year have started doing that now, and I'm sure all of you in your respective areas, I think Abhijit touched upon that as well. are seeing this huge problem of having to onboard new people at the same time as a huge attrition as well. Right? So revenues, okay, then the manpower. Now we are now slicing and dicing data to the point of saying, okay, so if there are so many open positions, what are the positions, and how soon can you fill these based on a skill set? So we've got multiple parameters at it, right? Then you say which locations can you get skill sets of these kind of people, and then where can you fill that sooner? If there is a particular requirement, how long would that take to fill based on your past data? Right? So we've started going down that. Then you start looking at attrition. Then you look at, okay, where and what kind of skill sets is where you're losing your people. Right? Then you look at new joinees, right? People that you're onboarding. Okay. So what is the trend of onboardees, in which location, which skill set, what is the percentage? So now we're going deeper and deeper into those elements which we did not do much before, because there was not such a huge variation, or it did not become such a big parameter for us to monitor. Those elements have now become of prime importance for us to run our business. Right? And in the past, there was analytics, and analytics could be done just on one system. Let's say you only had your manpower data in your HR system, or you could talk about just your recruiting system, and you could do various types of analytics on just that. Right? Now you have to bring it all together. Now, how do I run my business insights? Now, my revenue forecast includes all these elements. Right? So we talked about the data lake, we talked about the warehouse, we talked about so many source systems. All of them have to feed together to be able to say, this is what my revenue is looking like, or this is what our forecast is looking like, considering a sales forecast, an attrition forecast, a joinees forecast, all that stuff put together, and we say, this is where my business insights come from. So I think that's the level of drill down that's happening today, at least with us. And we're pursuing this. We're trying to keep on top of the game. And so there's actively work going on in data gathering more and more data elements to make sure that the business is more streamlined, we have more insights, and gather enough intelligence to make decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Nayan. I think what you spoke, I think, is an excellent segue to our next segment, actually, of questions in terms of how organizations are prepared in terms of at what stage of adoption are you all in the BI or implementing the real-time data and analytics engine or the system or whatever you're going to plan for the organization. I think it'll be good to hear that. And if there has been some time or a significant time spent in the adoption of these tools or these what you call insights, and so how effective are those? I think will be also something that we would like to hear. So let me first call upon Rajiv to share his perspective on this question.
That's the question. Really appreciate all the inputs coming from all our panel members. So we at Siemens had been using our data because we already had our own platform called MindSphere, an IoT platform in the manufacturing for a long time. And I know Sumit dropped out. Coming from a Six Sigma or a lean processing, we really could cut the fat, but that was more of process optimization. But we were never taking any informed decision how we can really improve the productivity, save those few minutes, few seconds to really enhance the quality of the decision making of ours. So we at Siemens have what we have done is we have really reorganized ourselves based on the digital design technology platform. And I say we means with the IT organization at a global level. And I, as my title also says, I am the global head of IT, where all businesses and the countries, including America, India, China, Mexico, all reported to me. So we are now looking at all businesses in the countries, trying to understand how we can leverage data. Could be in logistics, could be in manufacturing, could be in the product building, or could be in the sales also to drive it out. So we reorganize ourselves, and where what we have taken is, instead of having an infrastructure head, instead of having a application heads, all are gone. We don't have any of those people now. We have a digital sales set who focuses on sales platform, e-commerce platform, how we can use that data to take informed decision making. Second, how can we have an IoT organization or a function within the IT organization who actually focuses on various mechanisms. Could be in building technologies, could be in digital industries, could be smart infrastructures, what we build it out, could be to a return to office also, where we will similar to office about the pandemic. Third is we have rebranded our infrastructure, basically, which is fully almost outsourced, called under digital foundation. Basic tools, basic products, what can help us build the foundation along with the outsourcing partners who are in the ecosystems. In keeping these three in mind, we have also carved out a factory digitalization, a complete focusing on factory-based things, because that can really help us enhance the productivity, take some informed decision making, which is linked to the sales, linked to the logistics, based on data what we take it out. And the fifth element, what we brought about is keeping all this in mind. What do we require? We require to work with multiple interfaces. Could be internal ecosystem, could be external ecosystems, third-party products, customer partners, vendors. The next part what we brought is called API marketplace. We build our own APIs and try to see how we take it over the ground. And in the heart of all these functions is data analytics, AI, and machine learning. And that's what we are really organizing, that how can we enhance the customer experience of our people, leveraging the data analytics, leveraging the informed decision makings for taking the business to a next level. So we are I would say, not in a very early stage, not in a very mature stage. We are in between. AI and machine learning has been with us for almost more than, I would say, 3 or 4 years right now. Could not find much use cases, but over the last 12 to 18 months, much things are being predicted upon. Much things are taking information, being helping us out. And that has also led to make our foundation completely in the cloud platform, because we know very well that with terabytes and terabytes of data, what we would capture it out, how we can use that data for any of the digital businesses to transform Siemens, which is about 180-year-old company, into a more of a platform company to take the transformations. So that's how, Ankush, we are reorganizing ourselves. We have reorganized ourselves to take the whole thing out. And me as Rajiv, my role is that how do I really work with my customers in the countries worldwide, starting from Australia all the way to Canada, including China, other people, to understand their data points, understand their trends, understand their analysis around it, and help those countries and cross countries to take informed decision making. Back to you, Manchu.
Wonderful, Rajiv. I think at least what you explained to me clearly, I don't think you are in an early stage. I think, yes, it's a continuous journey and you will have to be involved in that. But I think you are one of the early adopters, and given the complexity of different nationalities and the geographies, etc., I think it is a very good setup that you already have. So I think good to know, Rajiv. Thanks for sharing. Mr. Narayanan, I would like to pick up your brains on this in terms of how, where are you in this whole journey or adoption of digital transformation in your setup?
So, digital transformation has been an evolving and an ongoing process for at least the last, decade plus, right? And we've just been doing more and more incremental things. One was need-based, and the other is trying to do something ahead of the curve and trying to get stuff done. As far as the specifics to data intelligence, so what we've been doing is, we've had our data warehouse, and we embarked on the data lake, and then we've been doing analysis on top of that. But constantly now we've introduced, at least in the last, I would say about 18 to 24 months, we've had the bot concept for a lot of other applications. We've been doing AI in specific applications again that was required. But I think now we're at a point where we're looking at integrating the analytics platform with AI, and then we have a bot. Like, for example, one use case that we're looking at is to say that if a particular, and I'm focusing on this a lot because this is like the current challenges that the services industry and solutions industry are facing, So if a particular requirement comes up, after the analytics, the bot would come and tell you that you have the best shot of filling this position in a particular location or within a particular time frame, right? That kind of alert would come in, or you allocate a bunch of resources and then you turn around and the bot would alert you saying this project does not meet the grade mix requirement that we typically tend to have on a project, or the costing or the profitability. So all these are incremental stuff that we're building given the current environment and scenario, right? And that we keep doing. And then similarly, are there risks to a project, right? Because now all the data is together. In the past, there were silos, some analytics from each of those silos, and the common things would be brought to a data warehouse and or a data lake, and that's what you generated reports from. Now everything has to flow in if you want to look at the business overall. You're not looking at one piece of the business. You're looking at the entire business. You're bringing out risk, you're bringing out opportunities, right? And then you're saying this is what you can do to do better in those respective functions in those areas. Right? Even in terms of asset management or operations, right? What is my perceived cost, right? In which location? How many people do we have there? So all these are data that's being flowing into our system, and then we're deriving a lot of intelligence from it and then acting upon it. Back to you, Ankush.
Thank you, Mr. Narayan. Abhijit, I just want to ask you some specific questions on this. I know Nippon has been one of the early adopters in your industry on terms of doing digital things, and you've been managing SIPs and a lot of new customers, and obviously managing some TGs through the digital mode. But and at least I am kind of somewhat aware in terms of when you started. But it'd be good to hear how this has progressed in terms of the whole transformation or adoption of real-time intelligence becoming very, very critical in your company and your industry in particular.
Yeah, I think started our journey long back, and we had initial setup. I mean, as it is a traditional setup of a BI team and the infrastructure associated with that. The data was kind of utilized when the events happened, after the events happened, and less towards the predictive. But I think in last 2 years, we have really kind of buckled ourselves to get predictive models in place, and we have been doing a lot of AI-based modeling based on the data that we have. We are also kind of embarked on a data lake journey. I would not call data lake journey because we already have a part of data lake, but we are also looking at a data mesh kind of a technology, because we're trying to kind of get the hybrid of the pros and cons of what, or rather the pros of what lake brings into play and what our data mesh brings into play. The strategy for us is a data first strategy, and we want to capture the data at the source. So pulling down all the data into a lake and then doing the massaging of it versus tapping the data at the source, the generator of the data, and then massaging the data to its use, putting the data to its use. So that's the data first approach that we are looking at. In fact, if you look at the kind of use cases I put across early was about the fraud prevention algorithms or portfolio rebalancing algorithms, algorithm specific, or the models, AI specific models for risk analysis and management. Now, the traditional data governance process that worked for ages is a poor fit for these today's explosion of data consumptions and consumers rather. I mean, the kind of use cases we are looking at, they're not that kind of data governance is not relevant. Now, the way DevOps has kind of emerged and is in a position to deliver products in a much faster, incremental and iterative manner, data ops is an emerging thing to manage the real-time data. That's what we are adopting. Now, putting the right tools, putting the right pipelines, the right monitoring mechanisms for the data, the right data security tools, apart from that, incorporating the intelligent metadata discovery, that is very important, because finding the data at the right point in time, it's really important. Looking at incorporating augmented data catalogs, I mean, that's something which is becoming extremely critical. And then now, at this point in time, it might sound something new, but maybe after a year or two, this will become a norm. Augmented data catalogs, and curating these catalogs for internal and external data really kind of multiplies your entire business value twice. I mean that's what I have really looked at. Now, this is from the data governance point of view. Now, if you look at the kind of regulatory changes we are looking at, we are not, at least in the industry that I am in, we are not supposed to have our data outside the country. I mean, even if we are adopting any cloud services, we need to ensure that the servers for that particular cloud provider is within the bounds of India. And then that is the kind of those are the kind of challenges we deal with basically when we are trying to adopt the latest technologies. The data which resides on the cloud, we need to ensure that all the financial data is secure, encrypted. The keys are not with the cloud provider, but the keys are with us. So while the data still resides outside, the control of the data is completely with us. And to kind of really move to a level where or rather to adjust to the speed in which the data, real-time data is flowing in, the need of real-time operating systems. That's what something is emerging, and that's what we are looking at. I mean, processing the data without the buffer delays. I mean, the kind of pipelines that we have, the kind of streams that we foresee in the financial world, we need to ensure that this RT, real-time operating systems are in place to kind of handle that kind of volume and speed.
Thanks, Abhijit. I think good to know you're thinking all those aspects. And actually, my next set of questions was based on data governance and things that you touched on. So I think what you spoke about, some of these areas on cloud, and which is not an option. I think a lot of the companies are moving their data to cloud, and that migration is happening. Mr. Narayanan spoke about the RPA and the usage of bots. I think a lot of companies do that. We also talk about data ops or DevOps. I think a lot of these are part of the companies now. So I think what is critical now and becoming very, very, I think, relevant as a topic is data privacy and data governance getting more and more importance. And hence the importance of data literacy. I think which is like the last mile should be aware on what to do with data and how critical that data is and how important that data is. So I'll just call Himanshu to actually speak about some of these areas and how their systems help in helping in some of these areas. So Himanshu, your comments on this, please.
Okay. So it was actually very heartening to hear the views of some of the eminent panelists here. And I think it's very clear to me that almost every organization realizes the importance of data in terms of as one of the key pillars for their business growth and business strategy, right? And I think thanks to digitization to an extent, I think there's no shortage of data anymore. I think everybody's stressed upon that. A lot of systems have been digitized, a lot of data is being generated. Again, thanks to so much of sensitization around the importance of this data, it is democratized as well. The data is genuinely now reaching up to the last leg. So that leaves us to the last leg of this equation, which is data literacy, right? So because again, digitization is systems, right? The data democratization to an extent is also systems and processes. But when it comes to data literacy, I think that's more person driven. How do you make people be more data oriented and use these data points in day-to-day decision making, right? So at Click, we define data literacy as ability to read, work with, analyze, or even argue with data. And we feel it's as important a skill today as reading or writing. right? So a data literate workforce can definitely achieve, quicker insights. You definitely gonna see better decision making, and most importantly, it can really foster employee engagement and empowerment, because employees do really feel, as part of the decision making process.
Very true, Himanshu. Very true. I think it's very important that we keep sensitizing the employees and everyone in the organization why data is important and critical for us. So I think thanks for that. I have my one eye on the watch, so I'll just take my last question in and get comments from each one of you in terms of how do you see this space of active intelligence or real-time data evolving in your respective minds and in your organizations, if we can speak about in the next 6 months to a year. So I'll call upon Rajiv to first share his views on this.
Thanks, Ankush, and really appreciate what Himanshu shared that. So just before I jump to the question, answering your question, Ankush, we are really going to a next level of making data as a service, especially in the financial sector of finance, I would say, function within the organization, where we have actually enabled our ecosystem that how they can use the various HANA data lake what we have, coming from sales data, logistics, receivables, multiple other functions, and use it for their better decision making, which can help the company's financial health very healthy enough. And coming to what you are asking a question about it. So we foresee that over the next, I would say, 6 to 12 months, and could be earlier also, I see a huge convergence coming through in the industry. The three worlds, what I normally call it out, the first world of analytics and BI, what we normally have it in across the organization. Second is the data science behind the data around it, and the augmented intelligence or the artificial intelligence around it. And I really see that all these three words would help or give consumers an agility and informed decision making while creating new marketplace, new opportunities, what data analytics ecosystem would bring to the table. Look at examples of Netflix, example of Amazon, how they're doing it. All what we've been seeing, or what you see Tesla, what they've been doing is about in the large sectors, especially for technologies, would actually reach the customers over a period of time frame. And people will become more energetic. Consumers will also become more informed and would increase autonomy, collaboration, and business intelligence to take it forward.
Absolutely, completely agree with you, Rajiv, on this. There is no two ways about what you said in terms of company customers becoming more and more intelligent. I don't think there is any debate or discussion on that. Thanks for sharing that. Quickly to Abhijit, your views on this, please.
Yeah, so I think I completely agree with what was said by Rajiv, and it's also about the kind of workforce that is going to get impacted. We don't, I mean, at least I don't see that the quality of people that we have right now might exist maybe over a 4 or 5 years time, or maybe even 3 or 4 years time frame, where data becomes so important and there's so much of automation in decision making that we will need. So for example, today there is a fund manager who actually visualizes everything, he makes the decisions, but going forward it's going to be a quant. So quant is going to drive all the AI based fund models. I mean, that's the kind of a change in the entire hierarchy of the organization. It's all going to be data savvy, AI savvy, to call it more explicitly. It's going to be the decisions are going to be machine learning based on the historical data that the organizations would have collected, and they are going to continuously train these models unless and until they become really precise and becomes more tuned to the organization culture.
No, very interesting. I think times to come. I think some of these things are going to be reality sooner than later than we think. I think a lot of these quant related and robotics taking decisions and the whole section of those quant based models, quant based funds growing. I think there is no doubt that is coming. Yes, Mr. Narayanan, your views on this.
So, where are we heading to, right? So, I think what the pandemic has done definitely is, for example, when people used to come into the office and during their induction did a lot of paperwork and got onboarded. The moment that left, we quickly had to bring up systems to get them onboarded, digitally. Right? The moment you do anything digitally, you get more structured data than unstructured data. Right? The moment you have more structured data, then it's available for analysis. Right? And so anything and everything is heading down that path where all the data, from whether it's employees, whether it's assets, whether it's expenses, you digitize, you scan something, you upload it, and then it's readable. You know what the spend was. So the moment you have data in a structured format, you can do any kind of analysis on it. You want profitability, you do that. You want cost saving, you do that. You want to do more employee engagement, you do that. So the potential is limitless. And I think each industry is going to see its own ways of putting this data to use where they need it best for their particular solutions that they need to adapt to. Right? And that's where we are headed. And it's going to keep happening, and we're going to see more and more digitization happening, more transformation happening, and heading down the path. That's what we're headed, definitely.
Sure, I think very true that as well. I think the importance of getting the data in a structured format. I think the challenge which each industry is going through is getting the unstructured data into a more readable structured format. I think that's where the solution providers can help if there is a way to do that. So lastly, Himanshu, quickly your comments on, given that you're one of the solution providers for a lot of these areas that were mentioned during the discussion, where do you see your space moving in the next 6 to 12 months? If you can quickly have your views on this.
Absolutely. I think what most of the panelists mentioned, this is one area where we are definitely going to see a lot of development and growth. And what we feel is as we said, Click was one of the spearheaders when they come into the existence in terms of bringing in the previous generation of self-service business intelligence platforms. And Click is spearheading the journey today by introducing the element of real-time actionable insights. So I think that is what is going to be the driving force behind the organizations in the near future. Uh, One thing that we really believe is, so when we say AI, we generally don't like to call it artificial intelligence. We generally call it augmented intelligence. So we feel, all these information systems, they are actually going to become an enablers for the users to help them make more informed and more accurate decision making. So be it in terms of the automated pipeline, be it in terms of those intelligent systems and processes, ultimately they will be the enablers which will help the humans make more real, more informed, and more correct decisions for their organizations. And what I always say is, while pandemic is a one-off event, disruptions are definitely not. Change is always chaotic, but the world, we live in it, as it becomes more digitally driven with each passing day, organizations have to learn to embrace change by adopting active intelligence. I think it's only the data, which can turn the challenges and disruptions which the organizations face today into exciting new opportunities.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you. I think with this, I think I'll say that we had a very, very good discussion. I learned a lot. I'm sure each one of you had also great things to take away from this discussion. So again, a big thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights. I think I am very convinced that active intelligence or real-time data is not an option at all. I think it is just about the solutions and how we can get this adopted more and more in our organization. So thank you once again. I think there are, as I said, I have a lot of takeaways and for me, and I'm sure each one of you have. And with this, I'll pass it over to Rijuta for the next segment.
Thank you. That was indeed an insightful session. In fact, I also learned a lot. I would really say data is undeniably the most valuable resource for any organization today. As a key business decision driver across industries, understanding data and data analytics in particular is often a crucial to success. Modern businesses are adopting technology to organize and comprehend the huge amounts of information they collect. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on board. This is the Economic Times Digital Roundtable, Active Intelligence, which indeed is accelerating informed decisions, powered by Click. Thank you so much.